Pokémon, I became a principal and hired Liu Bo as a teacher. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 326 looked at the scroll. The air elemental Pokémon looked at the scroll and seemed a little shaken. Yuang suddenly shouted, "Dean Kong Xian, we can't hold it anymore." Kong Xian immediately turned around and saw Yuang and the others fighting against a large number of elemental Pokémon. The situation was very dangerous. The air elemental Pokémon also saw this scene. It hesitated for a moment, and then decided to help them. It let out a long roar at those elemental Pokémon, and then those elemental Pokémon stopped attacking, as if they had received some kind of instruction. Kong Xian immediately seized the opportunity and said to Yuang, "Now, put the gem into the center of the whirlpool." Yuang immediately rushed over and put the gem into the center of the whirlpool. The vortex began to emit a strong light, and then the entire valley of elements began to change. All the elemental Pokémon began to fly around the whirlpool, as if they were celebrating something. Yang Zheng also came over. He looked at this scene with emotion in his eyes. "It seems that we succeeded." Kong Xian smiled slightly. "Yes, but this is just the beginning. We still have a lot of work to do." The air elemental Pokémon slowly approached and took the scroll in its hand. A complex emotion flashed in its eyes. "I will review this scroll, but you must prove your sincerity." Kong Xian nodded solemnly, knowing they couldn't make any mistakes this time. Yuang suddenly shouted, "Dean Kong Xian, although the whirlwind has weakened, the center of the vortex is still very unstable, and the energy of the gemstone does not seem to be enough to completely stabilize it." Kong Xian quickly walked to Yang Zheng's side, inspected the gem, and found that the light of the gem was gradually weakening. This means they may need more energy to stabilize the vortex. The fire-winged phoenix flew high, overlooking the entire valley of elements, and then conveyed to Kong Xian, "There seems to be an unknown force interfering in the depths of the vortex. We must find that force and eliminate it." Under the guidance of Kong Xian and Yuang, a team of elite trainers and Pokémon entered the depths of the whirlpool. As they went deeper, they felt the sense of oppression gradually intensify, and the surrounding scene became distorted and blurred. They came to a huge space with a huge black crystal in the center, and it was the power it emitted that disturbed the vortex. Kong Xian stepped forward and tried to communicate with the black crystal, but every time he came into contact, his consciousness would be strongly impacted. Lucas Fox tried to use its Lucas energy to neutralize this dark force, but it had little effect. Yang Zheng suddenly thought, "Dean Kong Xian, maybe we can use gems to combine with the power of the black crystal to create a backlash and destroy it." Kong Xian thought for a moment and nodded. "This method is worth a try." They carefully placed the gem in front of the black crystal, and then all Pokémon attacked at the same time, using their energy to combine with the gem to fight against the black crystal's power king. As the attack continued, cracks began to appear in the black crystal, but at the same time, the light of the gem gradually weakened, and it seemed that it was about to lose its support. The air elemental Pokémon suddenly flew in. It spread the scroll in the air, chanted the ancient spell, and combined the knowledge of the ancient secret book with the power of the black crystal. A powerful energy surged out from the scroll, colliding strongly with gems and black crystals. The entire space began to shake, and it seemed that it would collapse at any time. "Everyone, get back!" Kong Xian shouted, but at this moment, a strange blue light emerged from the cracks in the black crystal, shining directly into the gem, causing the gem's light to greatly increase again. Period. Chapter 327 can't help but take a step back. Kong Xian and the Pokémon faced the impact of the power of the black crystal, and the entire space shook violently. The light of the gem became more and more intense, intertwined with the blue light of the black crystal, and the scene was extremely chaotic. The air elemental Pokémon tried to continue to maintain the scroll's spell to support the energy of the gem, but it also felt great pressure. Mooney, Lucas Fox, and the other Pokémon surrounded the gem, trying their best to resist the power of the black crystal. Kong Xian felt an incredible power pouring out of the gem, as if there was some kind of resonance between the gem and the black crystal. His Pokémon partners also felt that 377 had noticed this change, and their eyes were full of anticipation. The cracks in the black crystal continue to expand, and a dazzling ember is created where the blue light and the light of the gem meet. The whole space seems to be collapsing, but the gem seems to have incredible stability. Suddenly, a huge beam of light shot into the sky from the gem, illuminating the entire space brightly. This beam of light is full of vitality and collides fiercely with the power of the black crystal. The black crystal began to vibrate violently and made a sharp roar. Its blue light is gradually squeezed, while the gem's light continues to expand, forcing the black crystal's range of influence to become smaller and smaller. The Pokémon stood firmly around the gem, and their powers continued to merge, forming a powerful barrier with the energy of the gem, sealing the black crystal within it. Kong Xian stared at this scene, and he could feel that the power contained in the gem was more and more closely connected with him. His body seemed to be no longer under control, as if it had become one with the gem. Finally, in the fierce confrontation, the light of the gem completely suppressed the black crystal and bound it. The sharp roar of the black crystal gradually disappeared, and it gradually became invisible. The entire space returned to calm, and the Pokémon also breathed a sigh of relief. Moonshadow, Lucas Fox, and other Pokémon smiled in victory as they successfully stabilized the center of the vortex. Kong Xian stood next to the gem and felt that his body was gradually returning to normal. He looked up at the air elemental Pokémon, feeling grateful in his heart. The air elemental Pokémon nodded and carefully rolled up the scroll, indicating that the task was completed. Yang Jiang stepped forward and looked at Kong Xian firmly. Dean Kong Xian, we succeeded, but this is only the first step. There is still a lot of work to be done. Kong Xian smiled and nodded. Yes, we want to continue to explore this world and learn more about the mysteries of elemental gems and the origin of the black crystal. In the joy of victory, Kong Xian and the Pokémon began to retreat from the depths of the whirlpool. They know that although the immediate crisis has been resolved, Yanhuang continent is still full of unknown challenges. When they returned to the surface of the Valley of Elements, they found that the entire place had returned to calm, and the elemental Pokémon gradually dispersed and returned to their own territory. It seems that they are also aware of the stability of the vortex. Kong Xian and Yuang walked in the center of the whirlpool together, feeling the tranquility around them. Yuang suddenly said, Dean Kong Xian, the light of the gemstone seems to have become brighter. Kong Xian looked up at the gem and indeed found that the light it emitted was even brighter than before. There was an uneasy feeling in his heart, as if this was not the end, but a new beginning. Suddenly, the light in the gem burst out dazzlingly, and the entire Valley of Elements was illuminated. Kong Xian and Yuang couldn't help but take a step back and stared at the gem. Chapter 328. Let's carry out a joint attack. The light of the gem formed a vortex that seemed to swallow everything. The uneasiness in Kong Xian's heart became even stronger. He tried to touch the gem, but was bounced away by a powerful force. Yuang said nervously, Dean Kong Xian, what's going on? The power of the gem has become too powerful. Kong Xian frowned, knowing that this was not the power of the gem itself, but some unknown external interference. He decided to dig deeper to see what force was disturbing the gem. They entered the depths of the vortex again, but this time, their task was no longer to stabilize the vortex, but to find the source of the disturbing power at the location of the black crystal. They discovered a strange rune array. This rune array exudes a powerful dark aura, as if it is a forbidden power. Kong Xian stared at the rune formation, filled with doubts in his heart. He felt that there was some connection between this dark force and the gems, but what the collective was required further research. Suddenly, the dark power in the rune array burst out, forming a huge whirlpool, sucking Kong Xian and Yu Ying into it. They were involuntarily led into the depths of this dark force. In the darkness, they felt that their bodies were out of control, as if they were being controlled by dark forces. Kong Xian struggled to resist, trying to find a way to release this bondage. Yuang was also trying to resist. She said, Dean Kong Xian, we can't let this power control us. We must find a way to escape. The two men's will is unwavering, and they are determined not to let the dark forces defeat them. But the oppression of the dark force is getting stronger and stronger, as if it wants to swallow them up. At this moment, a faint light flashed from a distance and gradually became brighter. This beam of light exudes a warm atmosphere, like a ray of dawn. Kong Xian and Yuang looked at the light and found that it was the light emanating from the gem. The gem seemed to have broken free from the shackles of the dark power and took the initiative to find them. The light of the gem surrounds Kong Xian and Yuang, forming a protective halo. The influence of the dark power gradually weakened, and the two regained control of themselves amidst the darkness. The light of the gem brings hope to Kong Xian and Yuang. The two regained control and immediately confronted the mysterious rune array. Please give me flowers. This rune array is not simple. It seems to have an existence beyond my knowledge. Kong Xian said to the movie with sharp eyes. Yuang nodded. I feel it too. but we cannot be controlled by it and must find a way to break it. Kong Xian thought for a moment. We need to cooperate with our Pokémon to unlock this rune array. Moon Shadow summoned her Lucas Fox, while Kong Xian summoned his main Pokémon, Windhawk. The two of them worked together with Pokémon to constantly try to decipher the secret of the rune array. The wings of the Windhawk generate a whirlwind, which combines with a light beam emitted by the Lucas Fox to form a light whirlpool. This force collided with the rune array, but there was no movement at all. We need stronger power, Kong Xian said, deciding to summon more Pokémon to help not to be outdone. Yuang summoned the crystal dragon she had trained for many years. The crystal dragon's body is surrounded by a blue halo, which seems to resonate with a rune array. Try to cooperate with Crystal Dragon. Let's attack together, Kong Xian shouted. Chapter 329 Blowing through the entire rune array. The four major Pokémon surround the rune array, each emitting unique power, and gather in the center of the rune array. A powerful force impacted the rune array, as if it was going to completely shatter it. However, at this moment, a deep sigh came from the center of the rune array. Then, a vague figure appeared from it, with deep sadness in his eyes. Kong Xian frowned and said to Yuang, "It seems that this rune array is some kind of imprisoned 520, and the beings inside have been trapped for a long time." The figure gradually became clearer, showing the appearance of a middle-aged man. Although he looked a bit old, his eyes still maintained a trace of sharpness. He looked around, his eyes resting on Kong Xian and Yuang. "How did you find this place?" he said slowly, with a hint of exhaustion in his voice. Kong Xian stepped forward with a solemn expression. "I am Kong Xian, the director of the Evergreen Pokémon Academy. We are here to stabilize the power emperor of the elemental gems. The rune array is blocking our way forward." A trace of surprise flashed in the man's eyes. "Elemental gem? Does that thing still exist?" Yuang nodded. "Not only does it exist, but its power is being interfered with by some unknown force, and the entire Yanhuan continent is affected." The man took a deep breath, which seemed a little heavy. "I am the guardian of this rune array, and my name is Jiugu. Back then, I chose to be sealed here with imprisoned because of some evil power." Kong Xian's eyes became wary. "Then do you know what force is interfering with the elemental gems?" Jiu Gu was silent for a moment. "I'm not sure, but Li Wang's seal is very similar." 117 Yuang clenched her fists. "So, how can we dismantle this rune array, free you, and help us stabilize the power of the gems?" Kutani shook his head. "This is not simple. The power of imprison and the power of elemental gems are mutually reinforcing. Once I appear, the unknown power may become stronger." Kong Xian and Yuang looked at each other and felt the seriousness of the matter. The two decided to work with their Pokémon again to try to solve the problem. Feng Ying flew to Kong Xian's side and communicated with him spiritually. Yuang also communicated closely with Lucas Fox and Crystal Dragon to think of countermeasures. There was a hint of tenderness in Jiugu's eyes, looking at the deep emotions between Kong Xian and Pokémon. "Kong Xian, your cooperation is indeed very good, but the reason why this rune array is difficult to crack is because it involves the entire Yanhuan continent strength." Kong Xian thought for a moment. "Maybe we can solve this problem from other angles," Yuang suggested. "If we combine the power of elemental gems with a rune array, can we stabilize the power of both?" A glimmer of hope flashed in Kutani's eyes. "This is a good method, but it requires considerable skill and Pokémon power." Kong Xian decided to adopt this suggestion, and he and Yuang began to prepare to try. Under Kutani's coaching, they slowly combined the power of elemental gems with a rune array. 3.6 Pangu guided Kong Xian and Yuang how to operate, letting their Pokémon occupy the four directions of the rune array, while he stood in the center, and the elemental gems were placed in front of him. Kong Xian nodded to Yuang, indicating that he was ready to start, and Yuang also summoned her Pokémon, Lucas Fox and Crystal Dragon. Kong Xian's Wind Eagle flaps its wings, creating a breeze that blows through the entire rune array, causing it to emit a faint blue light. Chapter 330 I hope I can get some clues from it. At the same time, the Lucas Fox shines with dazzling golden light, and the Crystal Dragon emits a tranquil blue light. Kutani closed his eyes and began to guide the combination of elemental gems and rune arrays. Under his operation, the elemental gems began to rotate and float, floating directly above the rune array. The light emitted by the gems intertwined with the rune array, forming a halo that gradually expanded until it covered the entire Yanhuan continent. Beads of sweat appeared on Kutani's face, Obviously he was trying his best. Kong Xian and Yuang did not dare to be careless. Together with Pokémon, they input power into Rune Array 14 in an attempt to stabilize it. Time seemed to have stopped at this moment. The entire Yanhuang continent was shrouded in this beautiful halo, and everything seemed so peaceful. But behind this harmony, there's an upcoming storm hidden. Suddenly, the elemental gem in the center of the Rune Array began to vibrate violently, and the light became more and more dazzling. Kutani's body also began to tremble, and the expression on his face was very painful. Both Kong Xian and Yuang felt something was wrong, and they immediately ordered the Pokémon to stop supplying energy, but it seemed that it was already too late. Back! Jiayu Gu shouted and pushed Kong Xian and Yuang away. The entire Rune Array collapsed instantly, and powerful force impacted everywhere, shaking the entire Yanhuang continent. Kong Xian and Yuang were knocked away by the shock wave, but fortunately their Pokémon caught them in time to prevent greater damage. Jiayu Gu was swallowed up by the powerful force and disappeared into the center of the Rune Array. Kong Xian tried hard to steady his body, a trace of worry flashed in his eyes. Jiayu Gu, Yuang, also looked at the remains of the rune formation with the same worry. Kong Xian took a deep breath. We must find Jiu Gu, he is the key to solving the mystery of the elemental gem. Suddenly, an ancient scroll floated out from the broken Rune Array, with various strange symbols engraved on it. Kong Xian stepped forward, picked up the scroll, unfolded it, and showed a serious expression on his face. This is Yuang. Walked up to him and also showed a surprised expression. This is the ancient Pokémon summoning technique. Kong Xian's eyes flashed with determination. It seems that our adventure has just begun. Yuang held Kong Xian's hand tightly. No matter what, we must find Jiu and solve the mystery of all this. 17 Kong Xian observed the scroll carefully. Every symbol was like an ancient painting, containing profound meaning. He and Moonshadow tried to identify these symbols in turn, but soon they discovered that these symbols were different from all the Pokémon summoning techniques they knew. Kong Xian frowned. This kind of summoning technique is completely different from what is taught at the Evergreen Pokemon Academy. I have never seen it before. Yuang gently rubbed the scroll. Maybe this is some ancient summoning technique that has been lost. We can try to decipher it and maybe find clues to crack the Rune Array. Wind Eagle flew to Kong Xian's side and carefully observed the symbols with its sharp eyes. It was obvious that it also had a strong interest in this scroll. Kong Xian touched Feng Ying's wings, had a brief spiritual communication with him, and then nodded. Feng Ying said that these symbols contain powerful power, and it can feel that this power is somewhat similar to the power of imprison mentioned by Kutani before association. Moonshadow also summoned her Pokémon Lucas, hoping to get some clues from it. Lucas sniffed the scroll carefully, then looked at Kong Xian and Yuang with its transparent eyes. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 331. Flying to their side one after another. The two Pokémon had a spiritual communication with their master, and finally Kong Xian took a deep breath and decided to try this ancient summoning technique. Kong Xian and Yuang teamed up, each selected several symbols on the scroll, and then recited the spell in a certain order. As their voices sounded, the entire space began to vibrate slightly. The surrounding air seemed to freeze, and a huge halo rose from the scroll, growing larger and larger until it surrounded the entire space. A huge portal appeared in the halo, with the same symbols as those on the scroll engraved on it. Kong Xian and Yu Ying were both shocked by this scene. They had never seen such a scene. Kong Xian took a deep breath. It seems that this summoning spell is really special. We need to enter this portal, and maybe we will find Jiu in the land of imprison. He mentioned. Yuang held Kong Xian's hand tightly, and the two decided to walk into the mysterious portal together. Their Pokémon followed closely behind, and seemed to be full of curiosity about this unknown world. After entering the portal, they came to a huge cave surrounded by strange symbols. Kong Xian and Yuang immediately realized that this was the place of imprison that Jiu Gu mentioned. Deep in the cave, they saw Jiu Gu, who was standing in front of a huge rune array, holding the elemental gem in his hand. Jiu Gu slowly turned around and looked directly at Kong Xian and Yuang with complicated emotions. His body exudes a faint light, echoing the mysterious symbols inside the cave. You actually found this place. Jiugu's voice was hoarse but full of majesty. Kong Xian said seriously, Jiugu, we are here to find a solution to the crisis in Yanhuang continent. Now that the power of the elemental gems has been exhausted, we must find a way to determine it as soon as possible. Cutany took a deep breath and nodded. I know, but the power of imprison here is far more powerful than you think. Especially after combining with the elemental gems. Yuang couldn't help but ask, then what should we do? Cutany was silent for a moment. First of all, you must understand the meaning of these ancient symbols and the power of Pokémon associated with them. Kong Xian frowned. He knew that what Jigu said was not simple, but for the sake of Yanhuang continent, they had to work hard. So, can you teach us? Jiutani smiled slightly. Yes, but you need to pass a test first. Yuang held Kong Xian's hand nervously. What test? Cutany's eyes were profound. In the depths of this cave, there is an ancient Pokémon altar. You need to summon the deepest connection between yourself and Pokémon there, and integrate with the power of the altar. Kong Xian took a deep breath. Okay, let's accept this test. Cutany led them towards the altar, and every step along the way was embellished with ancient symbols, as if every step, money, contained profound history and power. Arriving at the altar, Kong Xian and Yuang saw a huge stone platform with various strange symbols carved on it. Jiugu motioned them to stand in the center of the stone platform, and then began to recite Gunani's mantra. As the spell sounded, the symbols on the stone platform began to glow. Both Kong Xian and Yuang felt a powerful force surrounding them, and their Pokémon also felt this force. They flew to their side one after another. Period. Chapter 332. Otherwise, there will be consequences at your own risk. Kong Xian and Wind Eagle, Moon Shadow and Lucas Fox and Crystal Dragon, they have deep spiritual communication with their Pokémon, trying to combine with the power of the altar. Jiugu looked at them. A trace of expectation flashed in his eyes. As time passes, the connection between Kong Xian and Yuang and their Pokémon grows stronger, and they grow closer to the power of the altar. Finally, an hour later, Kong Xian and Yuang successfully combined with the altar. Their bodies were surrounded by a faint light, as if they had received some kind of blessing. Jiudani's eyes slid over the blessed faces of Kong Xian and Yuang, and then turned to the depths of the altar. You have established a connection with the altar, and now you can enter the core of imprison. Yuang trembled slightly, but still mustered up the courage to ask, what is there? There is the power of ancient Pokémon that is closely related to the elemental gems, and it is also the key to stabilizing the gems. Cutany said in a deep voice. The three of them continued deeper into the cave, and the surrounding symbols became more complex, as if telling ancient legends one after another. Kong Xian was immersed in this rich historical atmosphere, trying to find clues related to elemental gems. Suddenly, a strong vibration came from the depths of the cave. Cutany's face instantly turned pale. He gasped, someone is trying to break imprison. Kong Xian asked nervously, who is it? Cutany shook his head. I don't know either, but this person is very powerful and we must act as soon as possible. The three of them quickened their pace and soon reached the deepest part of the cave. A huge stone door appeared in front of them, with similar symbols engraved on the door. Jigu walked to the stone door, stretched out his hand, and tried to open it, but the stone door was closed tightly and remained unmoved. Yuang looked at Kong Xian worriedly. What should we do now? Kong Xian took a deep breath and summoned Feng Ying. Feng Ying, can you feel the power behind this stone gate? The Wind Eagle nodded, its eyes flashed with wisdom, and it communicated with Kong Xian spiritually. Then it flew to the stone door and carved a series of complex symbols with its sharp claws. The stone door trembled slightly, then slowly opened, revealing the scene inside. A huge circular stone platform appeared in front of them. There was a shallow groove in the center of the stone platform, and the shining elemental gem was placed in the groove. Please give me flower 0. Kong Xian walked to the stone platform and was about to pick up the gem, but Yuang suddenly pulled him back. Wait a minute, I feel there is a strange atmosphere here. Cutany also frowned. Yes, I feel it too. It seems that someone is affecting the elemental gems in some way. A trace of determination flashed in Kong Xian's eyes. No matter what, we must stabilize this gem as soon as possible. 0 at this moment, there was a sudden rush of footsteps at the entrance of the cave. The hurried footsteps were getting closer and closer. Kong Xian, Jiugu and Yuang all turned to the entrance of the cave, preparing to welcome the visitor. Then, several figures wearing dark cloaks broke into their sight. Their heads were covered with hats, only their eyes were exposed. and those eyes revealed strong ambition and greed. It turns out it's you. Kong Xian's eyes narrowed slightly as he recognized the other party. These people are traitors from the Evergreen Pokemon Academy. They once betrayed the Academy and pursued stronger power. Kong Xian, hand over the elemental gems, or you will bear the consequences. One of the cloaked men said hoarsely. Chapter 333 Prevent anyone from approaching the gem. Kong Xian responded expressionlessly. This gem is related to the fate of the entire Yanhuan continent. How could I give it to you? The cloaked man sneered. Do you think you can stop us by yourself? Jiugu walked to Kong Xian and said seriously, we don't want to conflict with you, but if you insist, we will not back down. Those cloaked men obviously did not expect to encounter Jiu 337 Valley here. They exchanged glances with each other and seemed to be discussing countermeasures. Yu Ying held Lucas Fox tightly and whispered, Kong Xian, their target is only the elemental gem. We must ensure its safety. Kong Xian nodded and summoned Wind Eagle. Wind Eagle, find a safe place to hide the elemental gems. The Wind Eagle let out a low cry and quickly flew to the stone platform, preparing to seize the elemental gem. But those cloaked men obviously would not let Wind Eagle succeed easily. They also summoned their own Pokemon to try to stop Wind Eagle. The cave instantly turned into a melee. Kong Xian, Yu Ying and Kutani had a fierce duel with the cloaked men. They each summoned their own Pokemon and started a wonderful battle. Moonshadow's Lucas Fox and the Crystal Dragon worked together tacitly. One illuminated the way forward, and the other launched an attack, catching the cloaked man off guard. Kutani's Pokemon, a huge flame eagle, also spreads its wings and flies high, constantly emitting flames and forcing the enemy back. Kong Xian and his Wind Eagle followed him like a shadow. They moved quickly, bypassing the enemy's defense and rushing towards the stone platform, but the elemental gem suddenly emitted a strong light, as if some kind of force was trying to affect it. Kong Xian knew something was wrong and quickened his pace. But just when he was about to seize the elemental gem, a huge black shadow suddenly appeared and blocked him. It was a huge rock Pokemon with a body as hard as stone and strange symbols carved on it. The huge rock Pokemon stood in front of Kong Xian, and its body exuded a sense of oppression, as if it were an insurmountable barrier. Kong Xian's Wind Eagle stopped in midair, staring at the rock Pokemon warily. Jiu and Yu Ying also realized the urgency of the situation. They stopped their duel with the cloaked men and turned to where Kong Xian was. Kong Xian frowned and tried to communicate mentally with the rock Pokemon, but this Pokemon seemed to have blocked his communication with him behind a strange barrier and showed no response. Rock Pokemon suddenly opened its mouth and made a deep voice, you can't take away the elemental gems. This is the protective power of Yanhuan continent. Faced with the rock Pokemon's resistance, Kong Xian took a deep breath and calmed down. We are not taking it away, we just want to stabilize it and prevent it from being harmed. A hint of suspicion flashed in rock Pokemon's eyes, but it still didn't let go of its vigilance. At this time, Yu Ying walked to Kong Xian and said softly, maybe we can try to establish resonance with it and let it understand our purpose. Kutani also echoed, yes, we need to explain our intentions clearly. Kong Xian nodded, 1.8 trying to resonate with rock Pokemon. He closed his eyes and conveyed his thoughts to this protective Pokemon on the spiritual level. Kong Xian saw a desolate land with 4 elemental gems scattered on it, which exuded powerful energy. The rock Pokemon stood there, guarding the land and preventing anyone from getting close to the gem. Chapter 334 Encircled in Flames. Kong Xian tried to explain their purpose, telling rock Pokemon that they were here for the safety of Yanhuan continent, not to take away the gems. His thoughts turned into sounds, echoing at the spiritual level. Rock Pokemon's eyes gradually softened, and it seemed to begin to understand Kong Xian's intentions. Then, a deep voice came from it, if you are here to protect the gem, then you must accept my test. Kong Xian nodded in agreement, and the rock Pokemon slowly lay down, revealing its back, which had some complex symbols engraved on it. Kong Xian understands that this is a test prepared by rock Pokemon. Only by passing the test can they come into contact with the elemental gems. Kutani and Yu Ying were also ready. Together they walked to the back of rock Pokemon and began to interpret the symbols in an attempt to complete the test. It is not easy to interpret the symbols. Each one is full of mysteries and requires profound wisdom and teamwork to pass smoothly. Kong Xian worked hard with Jiu and Yu Ying to constantly try to unlock the secret of the symbols at the spiritual level. Their thoughts communicate with each other, assist each other, and constantly think about the meaning of each symbol. Kong Xian felt that the connection with Jiu and Yuang's souls was getting stronger and stronger, as if they had become a whole. As time passed, they continued to overcome one problem after another. Finally, the last symbol was solved, and the rock Pokemon's body emitted a faint light. Rock Pokemon stood up and nodded in the direction of the elemental gem. You have passed the test, and now you can touch the gem. Kong Xian felt a power coming from the rock Pokemon. He walked towards the elemental gem and gently picked it up, feeling the powerful energy it contained. Jiu and Yuang also came over, and the three of them stabilized the gem to ensure that it would not be harmed. Just as they were about to leave, the cloaked man at the entrance of the cave suddenly appeared again. They obviously had no intention of giving up. Kong Xian calmly growled to them and said, "We have stabilized the gems, there is no need for you to continue." The cloaked man did not flinch. He waved a weapon in his hand and spoke taunts words, "Now that we are here, we will not give up easily. This gem is our goal." Jiu Gu and Yuang were also ready. Together with Kong Xian, they stood in front of the gem, preparing to face the cloaked man. Kong Xian's eyes were firm. He knew that this battle was inevitable, and they must keep the gems safe. The cloaked men were getting closer, and the Pokemon were eager to attack. "Kong Xian, we must protect the gems." Kyugu's flame eagle spread its wings and flew high, preparing to launch a fire attack on the cloaked man's Pokemon. Yuang's Lucas Fox 753 emits bright light, preparing to use the power of light to create interference. Kong Xian's Wind Eagle is also hovering in the sky, waiting for the opportunity. The leader of the cloaked men, a tall man, sneered, "No matter how strong your Pokemon are, it won't help. We have already been prepared." He waved his hand, and the Pokemon under the cloak quickly attacked, launching various elemental attacks such as fire, water, and wind blades, attacking Kong Xian and his Pokemon. Kong Xian quickly gave the order, and the Windhawk spread its wings and flew towards the cloaked man's Pokemon, trying to interfere. Kutani's Flame Eagle launched a fire attack, trapping a cloaked Pokemon in flames. Chapter 335 Feeling Stronger. Moonshadow's Lucas Fox is eager to fight, preparing to deal with another cloaked man's Pokemon. The battle became fierce for a while, and the cave was filled with elemental energy. Kong Xian and the leader of the cloaked man faced off in front of the gem, and their Pokemon battled, releasing powerful power. Kong Xian's Wind Eagle is nimble and agile, constantly dodging rivals' attacks and trying to find opportunities to counterattack. The leader of the cloaked man controls a huge Earth attribute Pokemon. Its body is as solid as a rock and it resisted the attack of the Wind Eagle. The duel between the two became fierce, and the battle of power between Pokemon began in the cave. Kutani and Yuang are also fighting fiercely with other members of the cloaked men. They give full play to the characteristics of Pokemon and cooperate with each other to try to force rival back. Moonshadow's Lucas Fox releases a dazzling light, restraining the cloaked man's Pokemon and preventing them from getting close to the gem. However, the leader of the cloaked man was not easy to deal with. His Earth attribute Pokemon resisted Windhawk's attack. During the counterattack, Windhawk suffered some damage and had to retreat. Kong Xian felt the pressure gradually increasing. He took a deep breath and tried to find a breakthrough. At this time, a strong earthquake occurred, and the rocks in the cave began to collapse, and rocks fell from the roof of the cave. The leader of the cloaked man exclaimed. His Pokemon was also affected by earthquake and lost its balance. Kong Xian seized the opportunity and ordered Wind Eagle to launch a fierce attack to defeat the opponent's Pokemon. Kutani and Moonshadow also took advantage of the chaotic timing and successfully fought off the other cloaked man Pokemon. The cave became quiet again, but the collapse of the cave roof continued, and the sound of rock collapse continued to sound. Kong Xian grabbed the gem and prepared to evacuate the cave, but at this moment, he felt a huge power surging in the gem, and the gem emitted a dazzling light. The leader of the cloaked men stood up, his eyes locked on the gem in Kong Xian's hand, full of greed and covet. He whispered, "That gem is our target, and now it has been activated." The collapse in the cave became more serious, boulders continued to fall, and the situation became extremely dangerous. Faced with the leader's threat, Kong Xian resolutely said, "This gem will not fall into your hands, I would rather Yin Jin." At this moment, the gem suddenly emitted a powerful elemental power, enveloping Kong Xian and the leader of the cloaked men, as if to devour them. Jiu and Yuang also felt this power, and their expressions became solemn. The collapse in the cave became more and more serious, boulders continued to fall, and the entire situation fell into crisis at this moment. A mysterious power began to gather in the cave. It seemed that the nature power of Yanheron continent was responding to this crisis. Kong Xian and the leader of the cloaked men were surrounded by the power of the gems, and their bodies began to change. This scene shocked Jutani and Yueying. They didn't know what would happen next. The collapse in the cave gradually stopped, as if nature had calmed down. Kong Xian's body was wrapped in elemental power, and he felt a huge amount of energy injected into his body, making him feel his strength doubled. The leader of the cloaked man was also affected, but his expression became ferocious. The light of the gem gradually dissipated, and both Kong Xian and the leader of the cloaked men returned to normal, but their powers had changed. Kong Xian felt himself becoming stronger, while the cloaked leader became more vicious. Chapter 336. Like a scene in a dream. The leader of the cloaked men said with a ferocious smile, "It seems that this gem has given us more power. Now it's your turn to capture us without any help." The voice of the leader of the cloaked man was full of pride, and his Pokémon also launched more violent attacks. Kong Xian knew that the current situation was critical and he had to find a solution. "Jiugu, Yuang, we must work together to deal with them." Kong Xian's voice was firm and decisive. His Windhawk once again pounced on the cloaked leader's Earth attribute Pokémon, trying to distract the other party not to be outdone. Jutani's Flame Eagle released a more powerful fire attack, surrounding the cloaked leader's Pokémon in blazing flames. Moonshadow's Lucas Fox continued to release the power of light, shining the light on the Pokémon of Cloaked Man 927, weakening their attacks. Although the leader of the Cloaked Man gained the power of the gems, he also felt increased pressure when facing three powerful Pokémon trainers. He gritted his teeth and kept giving orders, trying to stabilize the situation. The battle fell into a stalemate contest condition. The elemental energy in the cave continued to surge, and the collapse of the rock continued. The whole scene is full of tension and danger. Kong Xian's thoughts were racing rapidly, and he knew he couldn't let the leader of the cloaked man succeed. Suddenly, a strange feeling came to his heart, and the elemental power in the gem seemed to be communicating with him. He closed his eyes and concentrated on feeling the power. At the spiritual level, he saw a scene, an ancient altar, with 4 elemental gems placed on it, which exuded mysterious light. Kong Xian understands that gems contain greater power, and this power can be awakened. He conveyed this idea to Jiutani and Yuang, and the two nodded in agreement. The leader of the cloaked man noticed something strange about Kong Xian, and he whispered, "Do you have any other plots?" Kong Xian did not answer, but concentrated on preparations. His Pokémon also sensed their master's intentions and stopped attacking. A mysterious power radiates around Baobu. Suddenly, the elemental power in the gem erupted with a powerful wave, and the energy in the cave began to become unstable. Kong Xian's Wind Eagle flew towards the gem, and Kyugu's Flame Eagle and Yuang's Lucas Fox also joined them, and they began to awaken the power of the gem. The leader of the cloaked man felt something was wrong, and he quickly ordered Pokémon to fight back in an attempt to stop Kong Xian's plan. However, the power emanating from the gem became more and more powerful, and Kong Xian and his Pokémon seemed to become one with the gem. Kong Xian's heart conveyed a firm determination, and he understood that only by awakening the power of the gem could the situation of this battle be changed. His thoughts merged with the elemental power in the gem, forming a huge wave of power. The light emitted by the gem became hotter and hotter, the rock in the cave began to tremble, and the Pokémon of the cloaked man leader also felt its power weaken. He desperately tried to undo the gem's influence, but it was too late. In the cave of Yanheron continent, the powerful elemental power in the gems resonated with Kong Xian and his Pokémon, seeming to trigger an elemental storm. The atmosphere in the cave became oppressive, and the air was filled with strong elemental tremors. The 4 elements of light, fire, wind, and water were intertwined in the air, just like the worries in a dream. Chapter 337. Protect this gem. The Pokémon of the leader of the cloaked man clearly felt the pressure. They began to look tired and cowed, and even some were unwilling to fight anymore. The mysterious power exuded by that gem seemed to be beyond their understanding and tolerance. The leader of the cloaked man had an ugly expression on his face. His eyes moved from Kong Xian to the glowing gem. He knew that all this was caused by the gem. What are you going to do?" There was unconcealable fear in his voice. Kong Xian took a deep breath, looked at the leader of the cloaked men and said, "This is the power of the elemental gems. You are here to steal it, but you have never really understood its capabilities." Yuang walked gently to Kong Xian, the Lucas Fox in her hand flashed with bright light. "Cloak man, We don't want to hurt you, but if you persist, you will only be hurt even more. The leader of the cloaked man took a few steps back, his Pokémon obviously being greatly suppressed. One of the Pokémon, a petrified creature, began to crack and emit a faint glow, apparently reaching its limit. Stop! Stop! The leader of the cloaked men yelled. Kong Xian smiled slightly, but did not stop. He knew that stopping now would only give the opponent a chance to attack again. However, Kong Xian did not continue to attack, he just maintained this suppressive contest condition. Yuang walked to Kong Xian and gently put her hand on his shoulder. We won. The leader of the cloaked man looked at his Pokémon and gritted his teeth. He knew that if this continued, his Pokémon might suffer irreversible damage. He took a deep breath and said coldly, you won, but this does not mean that we will give up pursuing the power of gems. Kong Xian spoke slowly. I know what you want, but the power of gems is not so easy to control. You should know that those who cannot control the power of gems will eventually be swallowed by the gems. The leader of the cloaked men sneered. So what? For power, we are willing to pay any price. Kong Xian sighed. Power is not everything in life. Sometimes, giving up is the wisest choice. A trace of unwillingness flashed in the eyes of the leader of the cloaked man. We will come back again. He turned around and walked towards the cave's exit. Although his Pokémon was tired, Shushu followed him loyally. Kong Xian looked at their retreating figures inside. He knew that this was just the beginning, and the cloaked man would not give up easily. Yuang gently held Kong Xian's hand. We are also ready. No matter how many times they come again, we will not back down. 0. Kong Xian nodded, knowing that they still have a long way to go. Jutani came over and chuckled. It seems that we have to make some more preparations. Kong Xian smiled. Yes, we can't take it lightly. Kong Xian looked at the exit of the cave. The gradually dissipating dust and smoke symbolized the cloaked man's hasty departure. The sunlight penetrated the cracks at the entrance of the cave and fell on him, forming a saffron-colored halo. Yuang walked to his side and said softly, what should we do now? Although we have saved the gem, the cloaked man will not give up. Kong Xian thought for a moment and said, we need a safer place to protect this gem. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 338 Actual Battle with Pokémon. Kutani looked at the elemental gem in his hand and said, perhaps, we can bury it deep in the sacred place of the Evergreen Pokémon Academy. Kong Xian nodded. This is a good idea. The guardian Pokémon there can help us protect the gems, Yuang added, but we cannot take it lightly. We must strengthen the defense of the academy to prevent the cloaked men from attacking again. The three decided to return to the academy. They traveled along the winding mountain road of 573. Along the way were lush trees and flying Pokémon. Everything seemed so harmonious and peaceful. When they returned to the Evergreen Pokémon Academy, they saw the academy's gate from a distance. Kong Xian felt a little uneasy. He was worried that the cloaked man had already attacked the college, but when they walked into the college, what they saw was a peaceful scene. The students are practicing summoning Pokémon on the training ground, and the teachers are giving lessons to the students. Kong Xian breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that the cloaked man did not attack the college. The three of them decided to bury the elemental gems deep in the academy's sacred ground. When they walked to the sacred place, they could see a green grass field with a stone altar in the middle. There are 4 huge guardian Pokémon statues surrounding the altar, each representing an element. Kong Xian walked to the altar, took out the elemental gem, and gently placed it in the center of the altar. Suddenly, the eyes of the 4 guardian Pokémon statues began to glow, and they began to rotate around the altar. Jiu and Yuang looked at all this with shocked expressions. After a while, the 4 guardian Pokémon stopped spinning and the gems disappeared. Kong Xian looked at the disappeared gem, took a deep breath, and said, the elemental gem has been protected by the 4 guardian Pokémon, and the cloaked man can no longer get it easily. Yuang smiled and said, now we can rest assured. Kutani also showed a relaxed expression and said, however, we still need to strengthen the defense of the academy and not give the cloaked man any chance. Kong Xian stood in the central square of the college. The surrounding buildings were all in ancient style. The stone walls were covered with viridian vines. Whenever the wind blew, the leaves made a rustling sound, adding a touch of charm to the entire college. Angry, the Elemental gems are safe now, but we cannot let down our guard. Kong Xian said in a serious tone. In front of him were the teachers and outstanding students of the academy. They were all gathered here, waiting for Kong Xian's arrangements. Yuang nodded gently. Dean Kong Xian is right, we must always be prepared, the cloaked man will attack at any time. A young student raised his hand, and Kong Xian nodded to let him speak. Dean, I think we can form a special team to be responsible for the security of the academy and the protection of gems. A flash of light flashed in Kong Xian's eyes. This is a good idea. We need to involve every academy member in this guardianship. Kutani stepped forward. I suggest that we select from the senior students of the academy. They already have a certain amount of practical experience and are more proficient in controlling Pokémon. Okay, Jiugu, I'll leave this task to you. Kong Xian decided. In the following days, the Evergreen Pokémon Academy launched a large-scale selection event. Countless students hope to join this elite team and contribute to the academy. The selection method is very simple, that is, through actual battles with Pokémon. Period. Chapter 339 The Incarnation of a Wind. In the square, the students had a fierce battle with their Pokémon. Some Pokémon were as agile as the wind, some were as fierce as fire, and some were as smooth as water. Each battle attracted a large number of spectators, who cheered for their favorite students and cheered for their victory. After several rounds of selection, 10 students were finally selected. They will be the elite of the college and will fight for the safety of the college. Kong Xian stood on the training ground and looked at these 10 students. His heart was full of expectations. You are the pride of the academy. I hope you can create more honors for the academy. The 10 students responded in unison. Yes, Dean. Yuang stood nearby and smiled slightly. She knew that the academy would be safer now that it had such an elite team. The days passed quickly, but the cloaked men did not attack again as they expected. Life in the academy seems to have returned to calm. The students are immersed in the cultivation and training of Pokémon. Cheers and high fives are always heard from time to time on the training ground, and the atmosphere seems relaxed and harmonious. One day, Kong Xian stood in front of the office window, with the scenery of the college reflected in his eyes, and he couldn't help but fall into deep thinking. Yuang walked into the office gently, saw Kong Xian's thoughtful look, and asked softly, Dean, what are you thinking about? Kong Xian took a slow breath and said, I always feel that the cloaked people don't give up so easily. They must have other plans. A trace of worry flashed in Yuang's eyes. Yes, I have this hunch too. Especially considering the importance of elemental gems. Kong Xian nodded. So we cannot relax our vigilance. Even though it looks calm on the surface now, in fact a storm may come at any time. While the two were talking, there was a sudden knock on the door. Jiugu hurriedly walked in, looking a little flustered. Dean, there's a situation. Kong Xian frowned. What's wrong? Kutani took out a piece of paper with a strange symbol drawn on it. He said, this was found on the outer wall of the college this morning. I asked the surrounding villagers, and they said that a group of people wearing black robes arrived last night. Pass here. Kong Xian took the paper, looked at the mark carefully, and then showed a serious expression on his face. This is the mark of the cloaked man, Yuang said nervously. Are they trying to tell us that they may launch an attack at any time? Kong Xian nodded. It seems so. We must prepare as soon as possible. Not long after, the college's alarm sounded. Kong Xian, Yuang and Jiugu hurriedly walked to the central square of the college and saw a large group of men in black robes rushing towards the college in the distance. Kong Xian loudly ordered, all students and teachers, get into combat positions immediately. The 417 students hurriedly summoned their Pokémon to prepare for the cloaked man's attack. Kong Xian stood in the central square of the college, frowning as he witnessed the men in black robes approaching. At this moment, he understood that they must defend the academy and protect the synthetic elemental gem. Among the oncoming black-robed crowd, a tall figure suddenly rushed out, holding a long sword that shone with cold light. This man, wearing a silver-white shirt with long flowing hair, is the leader of the academy's Pokémon Knights. Albert's Pokémon partner is a contest-win Pokémon. Its body is covered with a layer of transparent airflow, like the incarnation of wind. Period. Chapter 340 Will not give up easily. The Pokémon Knights are the guardian force of the academy. They guard the safety of the academy with their superb combat skills and the assistance of their Pokémon partners. Albert waved his long sword to meet the impact of the man in black robe. His Pokémon companion unleashed a blade of wind, knocking back a group of men in black robes. Kong Xian no longer hesitated. He also summoned his Pokémon partner, a water Pokémon. This Pokémon is blue, with crystal water droplets emitting from its body, and its eyes sparkle with intelligence. We must protect the academy. Kong Xian shouted loudly, and his Pokémon partner nodded, preparing to enter the battle. The students also responded one after another. Together with their Pokémon partners, they formed a strong line of defense to resist the attacks of the men in black robes. Yuang stood next to Kong Xian. She summoned a fire Pokémon, and a blazing flame burned in her hand, lighting up the square. The men in black robes continued to launch attacks, and their target was clear, which was the elemental gem. The defense line led by Kong Xian and Albert resisted bravely, but the number of men in black robes was large and the battle was extremely fierce. During the battle, Kong Xian's water Pokémon released the icicle spear, freezing a man in black robes in place. Albert's wind Pokémon used strong winds to sweep away a group of men in black robes, creating a chance to breathe. Dean, we must move the elemental gems to a safer place. Albert suggested loudly, his eyes firm. Kong Xian nodded in agreement, but he knew that the elemental gems could not leave the academy easily. Otherwise, once they fell into the hands of the cloaked man, the consequences would be disastrous. We take the elemental gems to the sacred place, where they are protected by the 4 guardian Pokémon. I will lead the students, and you and Yuang will be responsible for resisting the attacks of the men in black robes. Kong Xian decided to divide the labor, and he must protect the gem personally. Albert nodded, turned around and directed the students to carefully escort the elemental gems to the sacred place. Yuang continued to release flame attacks to prevent the black-robed man from advancing. Kong Xian stood next to the elemental gem and felt the presence of the 4 guardian Pokémon. They protected the gem with powerful power. But he also knew that the cloaked men would not give up easily, and they must be prepared with the utmost determination. Time passed by minute by second, and the battle continued. The men in black robes kept coming, and the students and Pokémon companions firmly guarded the academy. Moonshadow's fire Pokémon burned even hotter, lighting up the entire square. Suddenly, a black shadow quickly approached, and a man in black robe tried to grab the elemental gem directly. But the moment he touched the gem, a powerful light burst out from the gem, knocking him back. The power of guardian Pokémon. Kong Xian looked at this scene in amazement. He understood that the 4 guardian Pokémon were not just decorators, they were real guardians. The men in black robes gradually understood that the college's defense line was not easy to break, and they began to retreat. Albert and Yuang's team pursued them to ensure that the man in black robe completely left the academy. Kong Xian stood on the sacred ground, looking at the elemental gem still shimmering with light. His heart was filled with emotion. The hope of the academy and the power of Pokémon were all integrated into this gem. This gem represents the future of Yanhuang continent and is also their responsibility. Dean, are you okay? Yuang walked to Kong Xian and asked with concern. Kong Xian smiled slightly and nodded in response. I'm fine. Thank you for your concern, Yuang. But we can't relax. The cloaked man will not give up easily. Chapter 341 Responsibility and Strategic Thinking. Yuang also understood. A determined light flashed in her eyes. Yes, we must always be vigilant. At this moment, a student hurried over and reported, Dean, the elemental gem has been safely placed in the sacred place, and the 4 guardian Pokémon are also protecting it. Kong Xian breathed a sigh of relief and felt a little relieved. Very good, our baby should be safe now. Albert also came over. There were still some blood stains of the men in black robes on his silver-white shirt. Dean, all the men in black robes have been driven out of the college. There are no signs of another attack at the moment. Kong Xian nodded and expressed his gratitude to Albert. Albert, you and the Pokémon Knights have performed well and are the pride of the academy. A proud expression appeared on Albert's face. I will do my best for the academy. Kong Xian turned to face the students, and his voice resounded throughout the square. Everyone, today we successfully guarded the elemental gems, but the cloaked men will not stop their attempts. We must remain vigilant and continue to strengthen the academy's defense in order to keep the gems safe. The students responded in unison. Yes, Dean. Night falls quietly, and the lights of the college are bright, but Kong Xian knows that night does not mean peace. The threat of the cloaked men is still there, and they must always be prepared. The next morning, Kong Xian summoned the senior teachers of the college and Albert, and they discussed further safety measures. The gate to the academy has been reinforced, Guards have been added, and the Pokemon Knights have stepped up patrols. We also need to strengthen intelligence collection and understand the movements of the cloaked people as much as possible. Kong Xian emphasized this point, and intelligence is crucial to protection. Yuang nodded in agreement. Yes, we must know ourselves and our enemies. Cutany also joined the discussion. I suggest that we establish closer ties with surrounding villages. They can be our eyes and ears. Kong Xian is satisfied with the team's cooperative spirit. Very good. We must remain highly vigilant and not give the cloaked man any chance. And at this moment, Kong Xian stood in front of the teaching building of the Changqing Pokemon Academy and stared at the ancient building that had gone through ups and downs and witnessed the growth of countless students. Although the threat of the cloaked men has temporarily receded, Kong Xian understands that in order to truly protect the academy and Pokemon, simply strengthening defense is not enough. The college needs innovation, stronger strength and more advanced teaching methods. The teaching system of the college has been used for hundreds of years. Although many aspects have passed the test of time, there are also many outdated parts. Kong Xian shared his thoughts with Yuang beside him. Yuang nodded slightly. Yes, the academy's courses do need some new elements. Communication with the outside world made me understand that many advanced training methods have been adopted in other places, and we cannot fall behind. Kong Xian pondered for a moment. Then, we will first make a complete adjustment to the course and introduce more skills in communicating, cultivating and fighting Pokemon, so that students can better establish a deep connection with their Pokemon partners. Yuang thought about it carefully. In addition, we should also open more practical courses so that students can cooperate with Pokemon in actual environments and exercise their reaction abilities and strategic thinking. Period. Chapter 342 Cultivating Combat Effectiveness. A flash of recognition flashed in Kong Xian's eyes. You are right. Practice is the only criterion for testing truth. Only in real battles can students better understand the relationship with Pokemon and develop stronger combat effectiveness. The two discussed it for a while and gradually formed a preliminary plan. Kong Xian decided to summon all teachers immediately for a discussion in the Evergreen Pokemon Academy's conference room. All the teachers sit together, face to face, exchanging their ideas and suggestions. Kong Xian spoke first. Everyone, our college is facing unprecedented challenges. In order to cope with these challenges, we must carry out reforms to provide students with the best education and training. Cutany added. Indeed, the current teaching method is too theoretical and lacks practical links. We should allow students to conduct more practical training with Pokemon to improve their combat skills. Albert agreed. I think we should also add some exchange programs with the outside world so that students can compete with strong people from other places and broaden their horizons. Moonshadow also shared her thoughts. I think we should pay attention to communication skills with Pokemon so that students can better understand their Pokemon partners and develop deeper relationships. This can bring out the maximum potential of Pokemon. After listening to everyone's suggestions, Kong Xian nodded in agreement. Okay, then we will carry out reforms in this direction. I hope you can give your full support and work hard for the future of the college. Kong Xian looked at everyone in the conference room, determination shining in his eyes. Now, we need concrete actions to realize this innovation. Yuang walked to the whiteboard, picked up a marker and started combing. First, we should redesign all courses, especially those related to Pokemon communication and actual combat. Kong Xian nodded. Yes, we need to introduce the latest teaching materials and invite some external experts to give lectures to provide students with a broader knowledge base. Albert stood up and said, in order to add practical courses, we need to build a special training venue. In this way, students can cooperate with their Pokemon partners in actual combat in a real environment. Please give me flowers. Kong Xian thought about it seriously and said, this suggestion is very good. We can choose a suitable place and build a venue similar to a stadium. In this way, students can not only conduct actual combat training, but also compete with other students or outside experts. Discuss. The early morning sunlight shines through the window and onto Kong Xian's bed, and the warm light wakes him up. He slowly came out of his dream, his eyes slightly narrowed, adapting to the beginning of a new day. This morning, he was in a particularly happy mood because today was a special day. Just as Kong Xian stretched out comfortably on the bed, he heard brisk footsteps. Then, the door was quietly pushed open, and a kind female voice sounded, Get up, Dean. It's getting late. Kong Xian quickly sat up and looked at the door. Standing there was a woman wearing a light blue robe, with a smile on her face and concern and warmth in her eyes. This woman is Aunt Heroine, the caring housekeeper of the Evergreen Pokemon Academy. She is a gentle and caring Evergreen Pokemon spoon. Period. Chapter 343 Aunt Heroine. Kong Xian has always been like a normal member of his family. Kong Xian felt a warmth well up in his heart, and he responded with a smile, "Thank you, Aunt Heroine. I'll get up right away. Today is an important day. I can't wait to get started." Aunt Heroine smiled even brighter. She approached the bed and patted Kong Xian's shoulder gently. "Dean, I know you have a special task today, but don't be nervous. You will do a great job as soon as you get there. Breakfast is ready. Go to the office after you finish eating." Kong Xian nodded and looked at Aunt Heroine gratefully. "Thank you for your concern, Aunt Heroine. I will work hard." Aunt Heroine's eyes shone with pride, and she gently touched Kong Xian's arm. "Come on. I believe you will achieve great results." After eating the breakfast carefully prepared by Aunt Heroine, Kong Xian was still full of expectations. However, he suddenly remembered something important and needed to find an elder for consultation. He stood up and asked Aunt Heroine with a smile, his voice gentle and respectful, "Aunt Heroine, do you know where the elder is now?" "I have something to ask him." Aunt Heroine thought for a moment, and then replied gently, "The elder has already set off for the ancient temple this morning. I heard that he has some important things to deal with." Kong Xian frowned slightly when he heard the news. The ancient temple is a solemn and mysterious place, and elders usually go there only in major events or emergencies. This sudden action made him feel a little uneasy, but he knew it was time to go to the ancient temple to understand the situation and ask the elders for advice. He nodded to Aunt Heroine to express his understanding, and then decided to go to the ancient temple immediately before setting off. He was still thinking about Aunt Heroine and wanted to express his gratitude. Kong Xian said, "Thank you for telling me, Aunt Heroine. I will go to the ancient temple to check the situation. If the elder needs anything, I will try my best to assist." Kong Xian stepped on the road to the ancient temple, bathed in the morning sun, and fell into his own thoughts for a while. However, he suddenly heard a voice from behind, as if someone was calling him. He stopped and turned around to look. In his sight, a middle-aged man wearing contest clothes was slowly walking towards him. This man has a tall and straight posture and extraordinary temperament, giving people a sense of majesty and dignity. After Kong Xian observed carefully, he couldn't help but be shocked to find that this man turned out to be the leader of the Pokemon human race, the Xinyanian clan. Xinyanian's robes are gorgeous and inlaid with exquisite gems, exuding a noble aura. The scene that appeared in front of Kong Xian made him feel a little surprised and at a loss. Mrs. Xinyanian slowly approached with a gentle smile. He looked at Kong Xian, nodded slightly, and greeted in a soft tone, "Hello, young man. I heard that you are the director of the Evergreen Pokemon Academy, and I am very happy to meet you." Kong Xian's heartbeat of 5.8 accelerated slightly. He did not expect that he would meet the leader of the Pokemon human race on this road, and he was a prestigious person like Xinyanian. He responded hurriedly, "Hello, Mr. Xinyanian. I am also honored to meet you." Xinyanian continued with a smile, "I heard you did a lot of good things at the Evergreen Pokemon Academy." Chapter 344 Xinyanian Clan. You have trained many outstanding Pokemon trainers. You have done an outstanding job and I greatly appreciate your work. Kong Xian felt an unexpected warmth well up in his heart, and he bowed deeply. "Thank you very much for your compliment, Xinyanian. I have been working hard to improve the quality of Pokemon training and work hard for the future of Pokemon Terran and Evergreen Pokemon Academy. If there is anything you need help from me, just ask and I will do my best." "All you can, Xin." Yanian's smile became more kind, and he said, "Kong Xian, I am deeply impressed by your enthusiasm and talent. In fact, I also have some things that I need to discuss with you. Can you take some time to talk to me?" Kong Xian was pleasantly surprised by this unexpected encounter. He nodded in agreement. "Of course, Xinyanian, I can communicate with you at any time. Please tell me what help you need, and I will fully cooperate." Kong Xian was extremely surprised and delighted by Xinyanian's friendly attitudes. Xinyanian's smile was bright. He took the initiative to start the topic and asked, "Kong Xian, how is the situation at Evergreen Pokemon Academy? I heard that you have been the dean here for some time, and you must have accumulated a lot of experience." Kong Xian responded with a smile, "The situation in the academy has been gradually improving. We are working to improve the quality of education and cultivate more excellent Pokemon trainers. Pokemon are also thriving in the academy. Xin Yan listened with great interest, and he was very interested in Kong Xian's work. I heard that you performed well in the recent strength assessment and showed extraordinary talent. That competition must have been fierce. Can you tell me any more details about it? Kong Xian couldn't help but feel a bit proud. He recalled that competition happily. The assessment was really fierce, but our students all performed very well. In the competition, they showed a deep understanding of Pokemon partners and excellent combat skills. This is also one of the goals we have been working hard to cultivate. We hope to enable every student to fully realize the potential of Pokemon. Mr. Xin Yan was fascinated by what he heard and nodded in agreement. Your educational philosophy is very worthy of recognition. I believe you will achieve greater achievements in the future. During their brief but pleasant conversation, Mr. Xin Yan suddenly mentioned a mysterious and curious topic, which ignited Kong Xian's interest. Xin Yan smiled and said, Kong Xian, I have a mysterious talent stone. I believe that as a Pokemon trainer and Academy Dean, you must have some knowledge of this type of treasure. I hope you can help me evaluate it. Its value and effectiveness. Kong Xian's heart was full of curiosity and excitement. The mysterious talent stone has been a precious treasure in the Pokemon world for 367 years, possessing various magical effects and powers. He expressed a warm welcome to Xin Yan's request. Xin Yan, I am very willing to help you evaluate this talent stone. If you are willing, I can go to the ancient temple, where there is some ancient wisdom, and may be able to help we better understand the secrets of this stone. If I find anything, I will tell you as soon as possible. Mr. Xin Yan was satisfied and nodded in agreement. That's great, Kong Xian. I'm very grateful for your help. Let's go to the ancient temple and explore this mysterious talent stone together. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 345 Talent Stone. Kong Xian embarked on a long journey. His steps were steady and firm, but from time to time a feeling of anxiety surged in his heart. The scenery on the road passed quickly before his eyes, the tree-lined forests, the broad fields, the outlines of distant mountains. Everything was changing rapidly. However, Kong Xian's thoughts stagnated and he fell into deep thinking. He was thinking about a mysterious talent stone mentioned by Xin Yan and the unknowns related to it. What power and significance does this treasure have? How will it affect the future of the Pokemon world? Kong Xian was full of curiosity and doubts, and he knew that this task would be an important exploration. During the long journey, he will continue to think and study to solve this mystery. Although his heart was full of uneasiness, Kong Xian was also determined. The wind on the road gently blew over his face, bringing a touch of coolness. Kong Xian felt the power of nature, which made him feel a little calmer. He took a deep breath of fresh air, trying his best to put his anxiety behind him and focus on moving forward. However, various questions and doubts always appeared in his mind. The secret of the mysterious talent stone, the future of the Evergreen Pokemon Academy, and his own responsibilities all make him feel stressed. Kong Xian couldn't help but think of Yang, the female teacher of Evergreen Pokemon Academy. She has been his friend and companion, sharing with him the responsibilities of the academy. He knew that she also shouldered an important task, and at this moment, he was on the road, leaving the academy, which made him a little worried at the same time. Kong Xian also kept reviewing his conversations with Xin Yan, trying to find some clues. He was walking on the road, but his thoughts stopped at the moment when he unexpectedly met the leader of the Pokemon clan. Yan once mentioned that a mysterious gift stone is a treasure that can give people special abilities, which made Kong Xian deeply curious. There have always been various mysterious treasures in the Pokemon world, but gems that can give humans special powers are rare. This news made him want to know more about the origin and function of this talent stone. However, Yan also mentioned that these treasures may be forgeries. This information made Kong Xian begin to doubt the authenticity of the talent stone he held. He couldn't help but think, if this gem was really a forgery, who made it and for what purpose? Kong Xian's heart was full of doubts and struggle. His attitude toward Yan is very friendly, but at the same time he also understands that things in the Pokemon world are often not that simple. He knew that he needed more information and clues to solve this mysterious mystery in order to solve the confusion in his heart. Kong Xian decided to meet the elder as soon as possible and get more information about the talent stone. He quickened his pace, determined to go to the location of the ancient temple and cross the rugged mountain road. Kong Xian's steps were fast and firm, and his mood was anxious and full of determination. He knows that the ancient temple is a solemn and mysterious, good place in the Pokemon world, and elders usually go there only in major events or emergencies. Therefore, he understands that now is a crucial time and he urgently needs to get coaching and answers from the elders. Although the journey was long, Kong Xian did not feel tired. He was full of determination and expectation that Covet could find the answer. He knew that once this mystery was solved, it would have a profound impact not only on the Pokemon world, but also on the entire Yanhuan continent. Period. Chapter 346 Rescue the Elder. With an accelerated pace, Kong Xian finally crossed a mountain road and witnessed a magnificent scene of the ancient temple in the distance. The ancient temple is solemn, surrounded by ancient stone pillars and mysterious runes. The atmosphere here seems to stop time, making people feel a mysterious power. Kong Xian's mood became even more excited as he gradually approached the entrance of the ancient temple. When Kong Xian stepped into the entrance of the ancient temple, his eyes were instantly attracted by the mysterious atmosphere in the center of the ancient temple. There is a huge stone statue. It towers into the clouds, is beautifully carved, and exudes a mysterious light. This stone statue seemed to be the guardian of the ancient temple, but there was a scene on its base that shocked Kong Xian. The elder, his 530 mentor, was bound at the foot of the stone statue's base, his hands bound by strange energy chains. Something was obviously wrong with the elder's expression. His eyes were dull and his body could not move. There is deep magic power surrounding the stone statue, exuding a kind of coercion that makes people shudder. Kong Xian felt nervous and anxious, and he hurriedly walked in the direction of the elder. However, he soon discovered that as he approached the stone statue, a powerful force stopped his progress, as if an invisible barrier was stopping him. After several attempts without success, Kong Xian understood that this barrier was not an ordinary thing, and he needed to find other ways to rescue the elder. At a critical moment, he decided to activate the Pokemon Orb, a mysterious tool he has always carried with powerful Pokemon energy. Kong Xian took out the Pokemon Orb from his waist and tossed it gently. The orb emitted a dazzling light in the air, and then turned into a pillar of light, covering the entire ancient temple. The power of the Pokemon Orb made Kong Xian feel confident. He took a deep breath, concentrated his thoughts, and tried to use it to rescue the elder. The Pokemon Orb within the light pillar began to release powerful Pokemon energy, forming a transparent energy barrier that gradually eliminated the mana around the stone statue. Kong Xian felt a huge force pouring into his body, and he focused on directing this force toward the elder's restraints. The elder's body gradually regained its vitality, and his eyes began to look alive. He said to Kong Xian in a weak and grateful voice, "Dean, you are here. The magic here is extremely powerful, and I am in trouble." Kong Xian didn't say much. He continued to use the power of Pokemon Orbs to loosen the constraints on the elders. Gradually, the mysterious chain began to loosen, and eventually disappeared completely. The elder was free. He stood up and looked at Kong Xian with emotion. "Dean, your arrival is really timely. This place has powerful magic. I was in danger and almost couldn't escape." Kong Xian smiled and nodded. "Elder, I am here to obtain information about the talent stone. Zinyan mentioned a mysterious talent stone, and I need to know its true situation." The elder frowned and fell into deep thought. Talent stones, this is an ancient legend. They are considered to be one of the most precious treasures in the Pokemon world and can give people special abilities. However, there are also rumors that some talent stones are fake and carry unpredictable dangers. You have to know that the power of talent stones cannot be underestimated. Kong Xian nodded. He knew the importance and danger of the talent stone. "I understand, Elder. I need to understand the talent stone held by the Zinyan family, as well as its true power and origin. You want to know more about this stone?" Chapter 347 Profound Foundation. The elder's eyes became serious, and he said, "Dean, I am gratified by your thirst for knowledge and determination. The matter of the talent stone is indeed complicated, and I have heard some rumors, but in this ancient temple, maybe we can find some clues. Let us explore here together, maybe we can find more answers." Kong Xian nodded in agreement, knowing that more information and clues were needed to solve the mystery of the talent stone. Together with the elders, he began to carefully examine every corner of the ancient temple, Looking for clues and secrets about the talent stone, the elder and Kong Xian searched together in the ancient temple for many hours, but did not find any specific clues about the mysterious talent stone in the hands of Xianai, and the secret of this stone seemed to be cleverly hidden, which troubled them greatly. Finally, the elder made a decision and said, "Dean, although we failed to find any clues about this talent stone in the ancient temple, it does not mean that we cannot unlock its secret. I decided to return to the Pokémon Academy and continue to study this stone there. Perhaps the resources and knowledge within the Academy can help us understand it better." Kong Xian welcomed the elder's decision. He knew that the conditions and resources in the Academy were very superior and would be helpful for in-depth research on the true nature of the talent stone. He nodded in agreement. "Elder, your decision is correct. In the Academy, we can focus more on research, and we can also assist other teachers and students. If you need my help, tell me at any time and I will fully support you." Kong Xian raised his head and looked at the elder standing in front of him. He has spent many years in the college, but every time he returns here, he is still shocked by the majestic buildings and beautiful gardens of the college. "Elder, please show me around the college." Kong Xian requested. The elder smiled and nodded, leading Kong Xian through the hall to the spacious and bright garden. Here flowers are blooming and fragrant groups of students were playing on the green lawn, and the Pokémon flying and soaring in the sky added to the vitality of the place. "Dean, our college has a profound foundation," the elder said to Kong Xian. "We have a history of thousands of years and have trained countless excellent Pokémon trainers and powerful Pokémon messengers. We are committed to protecting and researching the magical and mysterious existence in the Pokémon world. Please give me flowers." Kong Xian stared at the beautiful scenery in front of him, and he could feel the long and powerful history happening here. "On this land, we have given birth to countless Pokémon trainers, who have made great efforts to protect peace." 11 The elder continued, "We believe that everyone has potential and can become an outstanding trainer as long as they work hard." Kong Xian nodded to express his understanding. He understands that in this Pokémon world, everyone can pursue their dreams and use their own strength to protect the world. The elder led Kong Xian through a majestic hall and entered a mysterious room. The room is filled with dusty bookshelves and scrolls that have been sealed for a long time. "This is the precious information collected by our academy," the elder said, pointing to the bookshelf. "These record the history and events of various periods in the Pokémon world." Kong Xian stared at the precious information in the collection room, and his eyes scanned the envelope. Dusty scrolls and dusty bookshelves. Period. Chapter 348 Pokémon Types. He couldn't help but sigh at the profound foundation of the college. The elder's words still echoed in his ears. "Our academy has 43 different Pokémon races," the elder told Kong Xian, showing a hint of pride. "These Pokémon races have all been trained in our academy and have become excellent trainers." Kong Xian raised his eyebrows slightly when he heard this. He knew that this number was already quite impressive, but he still couldn't help but ask, "So, are there really so many kinds of Pokémon?" The elder looked puzzled and surprised. He didn't seem to have heard of such a wide variety of Pokémon anywhere else. After thinking for a moment, the elder asked, "Dean, you said there are 151 kinds of Pokémon?" Kong Xian nodded. "Yes, as far as I know, there are 151 different Pokémon in the entire Pokémon world. Each one has unique and powerful abilities." The elder was silent for a while, and his expression became solemn. "This number far exceeds the types of Pokémon that our academy knows," he said with a hint of emotion in his tone. "The Pokémon world is really an endless universe." Kong Xian couldn't help but feel shocked. He couldn't imagine that the Pokémon world was so vast. With so many different types of Pokémon existing, he was filled with curiosity and awe about the world. At this moment, the elder began to recall the past. He looked into the distance with blurred eyes, as if he had gone back to a long time ago. "There used to be some Pokémon races that have disappeared." The elder's voice revealed a hint of sadness. "They played important roles in history, but now we can no longer see them." Kong Xian's eyes narrowed, and he caught a glimpse of deep thoughts flashing in the elder's eyes. He knew this topic was sensitive and important to the elders. These disappeared Pokémon races were originally distributed in every corner of the Pokémon world, the elder continued, "but as time goes by, they gradually disappear, leaving only the memory of their existence." A strong curiosity aroused in Kong Xian's heart. He wanted to know what happened to these missing Pokémon races and why they disappeared from the Pokémon world. He hopes that the elders can solve this mystery. However, Kong Xian did not reveal the specific location of the missing Pokémon race. He knew that this topic needed to be dealt with carefully, otherwise it might cause unnecessary commotion and panic. Elder, do you have any more information about these missing Pokémon races? Kong Xian tried to avoid sensitive questions. I am full of curiosity about the history of the Pokémon world. The elder smiled slightly and saw that Kong Xian wanted to know more about Covet. Of course, he said, I will find relevant information for you and share it with you. But remember to have respect and memory for those Pokémon races that are no longer here. Kong Xian nodded to express understanding and respect. After saying goodbye to the elders 4.9, Kong Xian was sitting in a spacious and bright conference room with a neat table in front of him, with a research report on Pokémon type spread out on it. He explained his thoughts to Mr. Yan seriously. Yan, I am convinced that there are 151 types of Pokémon in the Pokémon world. Kong Xian pointed to the data in the report and said, this report was collected by me and the college professor. The data is very detailed. Chapter 349 Existence. Yan frowned and whispered, but, Kong Xian, you need to provide more evidence. After all, this is not a trivial matter, it involves our understanding of the history of the Pokémon world. Kong Xian smiled and stretched his hand to the report on the table. These data come from careful research and investigation. We found detailed descriptions of these Pokémon species in ancient documents and collected corresponding specimens through field exploration. Yan looked around, his eyes resting on the various pictures and specimens hanging on the walls. You have indeed done a lot of work. He sighed, but if we haven't seen these Pokémon with our own eyes, how can we be sure of their existence? Kong Xian looked at Yan seriously. You are right, seeing it with your own eyes is the best evidence. But these Pokémon species have disappeared for a long time, leaving only their memories and records. We must respect their existence and work hard to preserve these precious cultural heritages. Yet, Yan nodded, seeming to agree with Kong Xian's point of view, but if we can't prove to the outside world that these Pokémon actually exist, others will doubt our research results. Kong Xian smiled slightly. I understand your concerns. But I believe that in the minds of those who really care about and study the Pokémon world, the evidence I provided is convincing enough. After Yan thought for a moment, his eyes became firm and decisive. He stood up and paced around the room, as if thinking about some important question. He stopped suddenly, stared directly at Kong Xian, and stated the facts he realized. Kong Xian, you just mentioned that these Pokémon species have disappeared for a long time, and only their memories and records remain, but if these species really disappeared, why can we still find descriptions of them in ancient documents? Could the ancients really foresee their disappearance? Yan asked. Kong Xian frowned slightly and thought to himself, this question is really confusing. He pondered for a moment and replied, perhaps the ancients did not foresee the disappearance of Pokémon types, but had already discovered this phenomenon in their own time. At that time, someone may have recorded how Pokémon lived in the world and how they got along with humans. After hearing Kong Xian's answer, Yan smiled and nodded. You make sense, he said. Perhaps the disappearance of Pokémon types has long been a fact that we don't know. Now, I have a wonderful feeling about this world. Are there any other hidden secrets in this huge and mysterious Pokémon world? After hearing what Yan said, Kong Xian frowned slightly. He was very surprised, but he also expressed his recognition and appreciation for Yan's awareness. Your awareness is amazing, Yan. Perhaps you have indeed discovered some secrets that we have not explored so far. However, we need more time and evidence to ensure the results of our research. Yan looked at Kong Xian with a determined expression on his face. I will go all out to find more evidence, he said. If there is a long-lost Pokémon race, I will find them and show the truth to the world. Kong Xian said about Yan's observation ability appreciation, my heart is full of doubts and uncertainties. Period. Chapter 350 Stagnation Period. Outside the meeting room is a quiet and mysterious corridor lined with ancient stone statues. Kong Xian stood in front of an expressionless stone statue, looking at it. A thought flashed through his mind. This stone statue seemed to be staring at endless time and space, and Kong Xian felt as if he could feel an inexplicable power from it. He thought about their conversation just now and recalled the questions raised by Yan. Why did the ancients record the disappearing Pokémon species? This is a confusing but important question. However, He now doesn't have enough clues to solve the puzzle. Although the mysterious stone statues once provided many important clues about the Pokémon race and the history of the Pokémon world, it seems to have reached a stagnant period. Kong Xian made a difficult and decisive choice. In his heart he realized he needed to find other ways to get more clues about evidence of a long-lost Pokémon race. He no longer had high expectations for the stone statue. Kong Xian turned and left the corridor and walked towards the college's library. This ancient and majestic building contains a large amount of documentation about the history of Pokémon and Pokémon types. Maybe you can find some key information here. When Kong Xian stepped through the door, the strong aroma of books in the library hid his face. 12 bookshelves are filled with a variety of books, ranging from classic literature to scientific research. They came to the largest reading room in the college, which is the most peaceful place in the entire library. Yan and Kong Xian searched for books in the library that interested them. Yan was flipping through a monograph on the historical evolution of the Pokémon world, while Kong Xian was looking for some information related to ancient Pokémon types. This research paper on the origin of phantom Pokémon is very interesting. Yan turned the pages. According to what is recorded here, phantom Pokémon traveled from another dimension and formed a unique and mysterious group in the Pokémon world. He raised his head and looked at Kong Xian. Have you heard of phantom Pokémon? Kong Xian paused and recalled that he had heard stories about people seeing phantom Pokémon. Yes, a long time ago, someone once reported seeing phantom Pokémon appearing at night. They seemed to be able to control time and space. He mused. However, as time goes by, such sightings become less and less. Are the existence of phantom Pokémon gradually lost in the long river of history? Yan smiled slightly and continued to flip through the books. I also found a novel about the history of the ancient evergreen Pokémon. It is said to have been written by a senior dean. He looked at Kong Xian. Have you treated this senior? Kong Xian thought for a moment. His name is Kong, and he is one of the greatest evergreen Pokémon scholars in the entire history of the Academy. He is dedicated to researching lost Pokémon species and recording his findings in this novel, by Li Hao. However, unfortunately, there are few evidences for these clues related to long-lost Pokémon. Yan showed a trace of regret. Maybe we can try to understand what he has experienced and look for clues in his writing. He looked at the novel on the bookshelf. Kong Xian nodded in agreement. Yes, you are right. Mingxin is a wise and far-sighted scholar. I believe he conveyed some key information through this novel. He said confidently. Period. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.